Hello everyone, David here and welcome to day 7 of my December Wargaming Pile of Shame challenge. It's not a pile of shame today because it's game day. So I'm going to be heading around to a mate of mine's to play Alpha Strike. Hopefully we'll get at least some, in progress photos that I can talk over the top of. I'm not 100% certain that he's going to want to appear on camera, because he is quite a private chap. In fact, I will be referring to him by a pseudonym. Let us refer to him as Kate. Now, I am deliberately choosing a female name for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, if I'd gone by sort of like Fred or George or something like that, then you guys may attempt to, put two and two together and try and find him. And we don't want that. And if you are for any reason considering why I have chosen to use the pseudonym Kate, as you know, I am a big Doctor Who fan. Kate Lethbridge-Stewart is the current head of unit. She is the daughter of Brigadier Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart. And of course, at the moment in the UK, the current spin-off featuring unit, The War Between the Land and the Sea, is airing. I haven't seen it. No spoilers, please. I am looking forward to it, and unfortunately we don't get it until next year. So there is absolutely no link between the name Kate and any male. Kate is certainly not short for Bob. So different scale than you are used to me modelling in. That doesn't mean that I haven't delved into this kind of thing. And one of the very first ones that I got into, one of the very first Games Workshop games that I got into, was Adeptus Titanicus. And that was all, real small scale stuff. And while his Forget collection is really nice, his terrain and scenery is it could do with some help. So let's see what I have that's just lying around that may possibly be of some use, and I'll take it across. Right, I knew I'd seen some stuff when I was fossicking around for that Eldar Commander. Resin cast buildings, I've got a couple of them. I wasn't a great fan of them back in the day, but hey, I've got more into resin nowadays. Let's get this lot out of here. Oh, hang on. Oh yeah, they're not going to be of any use for Space Marine bunkers. So you could actually fit a couple of infantry stands in there, but because we're not using infantry, of no use today. Right, let's get these out. Now, I know I've got something else around here, and I get the feeling it is deep in black archive territory. Oh. Hang on, shift you out of the way. Yeah. It's that box. Alright. I need to do some rearranging. That's the one I'm after. Alright, how appropriate. The box sitting on top of the one that I'm going for just happened to have these in. I thought that I'd constructed all of these back when Kate was getting back into Battletech. I grabbed all of my stuff and made a couple of lance mechs and painted them up, and we used them in battle. And yeah, I thought I'd done all of them. God, this is a completely unopened. There's a good couple of sets there. Oh, stuff that's on the pile of shame that I didn't realise was on the pile of shame. Right, this was the box I was actually going for. And is it the right one? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah, epic stuff, unbuilt. There's Orc Mega Gargants there. What's that? Oh, Space Marine Land Raiders. Okay. Haha. Squats. Back when squats were a thing. But I think it is in this bag here. Yeah, okay. Tip this out. Trees. One of the problems he does have is not enough trees, and trees apparently are a really big thing. So yeah, I'll at least take the ones that are part painted. And that's some greenery. Now, one thing that I will say about Kate, after I announced to the world that we were going to be having a game today, he suddenly had a panic attack, and I know for a fact has been spending the last couple of days hard out painting. He did not want to be plastic shamed on the worldwide interwebs. Be kind. He's got a full-time job as well. We all fit our hobby in and around. And at the end of the day, this is not competition play. It is a friendly game between mates. And I couldn't give a monkey's. His painting is not bad. I will show you, with his permission, some photos of his stuff. But yeah, poor sod. The things you have to put up with when you're dealing with me. Right, so I am back from Kate's place, and a thoroughly good time was had by all, well, at least by me. Thank you very much for asking. No actual footage was taken because, well, we were too busy nattering and playing, but there were absolutely shed loads of photos. So much so that, to be honest, in terms of the actual game, I'm not going to be able to do it justice in this video. I just don't have the time. But there is certainly well enough there for a battle report, maybe after Christmas. I've got all the stuff there. I know what happened. So yeah, that's something that I will get round to. I can, however, give you some edited highlights. Now, Kate is far more into Battletech and Alpha Strike than I am. So is a far more accomplished gamer than this. And I'll be perfectly honest, he is a very good gamer. In terms of play style, between the two of us, he is probably more aggressive and very cunning, whereas I am probably more defensive and very cunning. So it does actually make for really good matchups. Now, to recap the scores so far for our games of Alpha Strike, Honours were even going into this. 1 draw, 1 loss each. The draw was a complete fluke. Kate was winning, and with the very last shot of the game, I managed to disable his last mech, and both sides were forced to withdraw from the board. Technical retreat, causing a draw. The second game was a solid loss for me. Yes, I did make a mistake, which led to Kate getting the victory. And to be perfectly honest, in an awful lot of cases, and especially with this game we've just played, the difference between making or not making a particular mistake has been what has caused the result. The second game we played was a pitched battle, and Kate, being pretty aggressive, yeah, just won. The third game we played was a mission, and again, Kate came out pretty aggressive, and the mistake that he made was taking his eye off the objective and attempting to win basically by blowing me away. I kept my eye on the objective and won. So, going into this match, Kate sorted out the forces, so he did both army lists for both sides. He knows which side I prefer to play, so he was choosing my forces for me, and he chose his own. I'll show you the mission type in just a second. The forces that were chosen, I had mainly heavier mechs with a lot of armour and hard-hitting weaponry, but fewer of them. Kate had more mechs, and they were lighter, faster, more manoeuvrable, but lighter armour, lighter weapons. There were a couple of special rules for our forces in play. I had a command skill, which essentially allowed me to, every 3 turns, nominate a mech that could fire in the movement phase and resolve all of its attacks then, and it also allowed me to re-roll my initiative rolls if I lost. His special rules allowed, I think, about 3 of his mechs to move faster, and because he had greater numbers than me, it was 5 mechs versus his 7. He was hoping to be able to use that maneuverability to sort of get into blind spots and things like that and take me out. This, however, was the mission that was chosen. And essentially, what you have to do is run across the board, pick up some loot, run back to your table edge, throw it across the line, and then go and get another bit of loot. Every bit of loot counts 2 points, and the person who has 10 or more points by the end of a particular game phase has won. So unfortunately, instead of any kind of pitched battle, it was a fetch and carry mission. So unfortunately, what it meant was that all of those fast mechs that Kate was hoping to get round the back of me to cause us severe amounts of problems were on fetch and carry duty. Too bad, sucks to be him. Now, for those of you not familiar with Alpha Strike, all dice rolls are done using 2d6. Initiative, any kind of piloting roll, and firing. Damage is set per weapon, and if you hit, you just mark it off. There are modifiers to the dice roll depending on whether your target moved, whether or not you use jump packs, things like that. But it is a very simple and fast system. Each game turn is split into a number of phases. There's the initiative phase. If you win the initiative, then you get to choose whether or not you move first, and then later on you get to choose whether or not you fire first. As it turned out, because of my command ability, I won every round of initiative apart from one, and at the end of the day, when somebody rolls double six, there's no way you're going to be able to beat that. Then there's the movement phase, where everybody gets to move their pieces. Depending on whether or not you have initiative, you can kind of tell where they're going to be going and react to it. Then there's the combat phase. Everybody shoots. Damage is not applied instantly. Damage is applied at the end of the phase, so in theory, you've got a mech that you know is dead, but you can still fire the weapons off it. Then it falls over. It did mean that that ability that I had of being able to fire in the combat phase could have been a bit of a game changer, but as it turned out, every time I used it, I missed. So it was a moot point. And then there's the end phase, where various things happen. That's essentially the flow of the game in Alpha Strike. Before I go much further, let's have a quick montage of the battle in action. Right, onto the highlights. Looking back over it, this point, very, very early on in the game, was the point where it was essentially won. I'll call this one the Battle of the Chicken Run. Over on what was my left-hand side, we had our two lightest mechs. Mine was a Fire Moth, and it was far faster than his, and I didn't have as far to go to reach my objective. His was a little bit slower and had further to travel. When he was actually setting up his forces, he deliberately put his light mech over at one side and kept all of his heavier stuff in the center and over the other side and concentrated on there. And the reason why he did it, and the reason why he chose that particular mech, was because in every game we have played, that has been my prime target. I do not like fast flankers, and I take them out. So he knew that I was going to be concentrating any form of fire on taking that thing out. If that was drawing forces over to his side, then it meant he had overwhelming numbers in the center and my right flank, and being the aggressive chap he is, he was going to take me out, and if he had control of the board, then he could achieve his objectives without any problem. So over on that side, you had two light mechs sprinting up and down the board, grabbing loot and taking it back. Yes, I did get rid of his locust. Yeah, I think that's what it's called. It's a locust mech. I call it the chicken. I took it out, and that meant that my fast mech basically had an unrestricted run up that side because all of his stuff was miles away, and it was just grabbing objectives and racking up the points. That mech by itself, my smallest one, accounted for over half of the victory points that I achieved throughout the course of the game. It was my star player. I think it fired a shot in the first round against the enemy chicken, missed, and then just continued sprinting. So yeah, unfortunately, by trying to divert me and use aggression to take out the rest of my forces, because I was keeping my eye on the actual objective, again, he played into my hands. Oh yeah, spoiler alert, guess who won? I did make my own mistake. For some reason, I got my stat cards mixed up, and a perfectly good mech that had taken maybe a scratch to the paint, I was under the impression was sitting on its last hit point, and I was cowering away and keeping it hidden, and it could have been out there causing mayhem. As it was, it didn't actually affect the outcome of the game. The game itself should have lasted one turn less than we actually played, because I knew he wanted to shoot something. So instead of sprinting off the table, I delivered my stuff, threw it across the finish line, and turned around to have a go at him, which ended disastrously. I scored a sum total of 0 hits, and he blew up another one of me mechs. But the victory went to me. We then sat down, had a natter and a debrief, and yeah, I am a little bit worried. I'm not sure who it was that came up with the idea. I get the horrible feeling it was me. He was wondering basically just how he could deal with those heavy mechs that I was fielding, and the idea was mooted that quite possibly the answer was to get himself a force purely consisting of those chicken mechs. It is entirely possible that over the next few months he is going to be scouring the internet to see who is selling off locusts so he can swarm me. Then it was time to grab out some of his collection, because I did ask if I could, showcase some of that. So because it is appropriate, here's another montage of Kate's miniatures. Was there a downside to the evening? I'm not going to call it a downside, but Kate did have his revenge. I left with this. It's a Kickstarter that he backed 1-2 years ago. I've got more stuff for the pile of shame, and a time limit has been set. Apparently from this lot, I have to have by, maybe it's around about February, a painted force so that we can have a go at this game. Yay me! Words fail me, Kate. Anyway, that is enough for this particular video. I've got to get it edited and I've got to get it up because it's probably going to be a long one with it being a weekend job. I will see you guys hopefully tomorrow. Toodle pip for now.